Streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and blasttheradio.com, this is The Lowell Green Show. The number to call and be heard around the world is 613-413-2217. Or email Lowell at blasttheradio.com. And now, here is Lowell Green.
Thank you, John. The late John F. Kennedy on many minds these past few days. Yesterday, of course, the 58th anniversary of the tragic assassination. But I have a happy memory that I'd like to share with you concerning John F. Kennedy and Jackie. It's a memory that I'll never forget. May 16, 1961. Yeah, a long time ago. A very young Lowell Green, that would be me, and CFRA's news director, Campbell McDonald, are broadcasting live from Uplands Airport. Newly elected U.S. President John F. Kennedy and wife Jackie arrive for an official visit to Canada. And there to welcome them, Lowell Green and Campbell McDonald. I still have some pictures from it. Very exciting. I mean, John F. Kennedy was a very exciting figure. He was sort of a symbol of hope in pretty dark days. This was the Cold War, and a lot of us were very, very worried. I mean, kids in schools were being taught to, dive underneath their desks in case of an atomic blast. A special escape of whatever you want to call it was built not far from me here in Carp for the government. It was a pretty scary time, but here was this great symbol of hope and excitement, John F. Kennedy. Both Campbell and I were a little bit surprised at the lack of spectators along the motorcade route into Parliament Hill. I remember Campbell commenting a couple of times that there weren't very many people. We learned after one of the reasons for that, and it's amazing that we did what we did. One of the reasons for it is that security had announced a different route. So there were a lot of people along a different route, but because of security reasons. But there we were, Campbell and I, in the motorcade. I don't know if we were supposed to. Security was a little bit different in those days, and we were announcing exactly where they were. It's a wonder the Mounties didn't come down and descend on us with AK-47s or whatever, but they didn't. So we were very, very heartened when we got to Parliament Hill, and there were an estimated 50,000 people, all excited, just simply there wanting to get a glimpse of John F. Kennedy and very attractive Jackie Kennedy. And they did. The Kennedys strolled through the crowd, and many people had a chance to take pictures, etc., etc. Later that day, and I was there in the spectators gallery, later that day, Kennedy addressed a joint session with the House of Commons and the Senate. And I'll never forget his most famous line. And I still have it embedded in my mind. I wish that the president of the United States today would pay more attention to this. Here was Kennedy's famous line: "Geography has made us neighbors. History has made us friends." Unquote. As I say, too bad that Joe Biden doesn't seem to understand that. Kennedy was there to strengthen Canada's resolve in fighting the scourge of communism. As I said, these were very scary times. One of the statements that he made was, and this was to loud applause, "Stand with the United States against the communist threat," he asked, to loud and very prolonged applause. It was a grand day, a great day. It was a beautiful day, May 16. It was a wonderful spring day, as I recall. The day, the city was filled with excitement and joy and hope. That was the day, by the way, some of you may recall that Kennedy strained his back very badly while planting a tree with John F. Diefenbaker at Rideau Hall. Sadly, as we all know, the Kennedy dream died about 2 years later. And one of my saddest memories was my job, November 22nd, 1963, to try and hold back the tears, which I was not always successful in doing, as I informed listeners while reading the news on CFRA that Kennedy was dead. And by the way, years later, John Diefenbaker, who became a kind of friend of mine, I would say, I had him on my shows, different kinds of shows, many times. I had him on the open line shows. He came on Christmas cheer broadcasts. And anytime I was really in need of a really interesting guest, I'd call on John Diefenbaker, and he was always there as prime minister and as opposition leader, by the way. And so I asked him, because there had been rumors going around that he and Kennedy didn't really like each other all that much. And all that Deef was very good at euphemisms. He said, well, we saw some things differently. That was his only explanation. Actually, I think it was Kennedy who bore most of the ill will. But I just thought I would pass that on. It's one of my great memories, 1961. Can you imagine? Started at CFRA in the fall of 1960. Good old days of the Rough Rider. One of the first things I did was go to a Rough Riders football game where Ronnie Lancaster, and I think Ronnie Lancaster was here, along, of course, with wonderful number 12 quarterback. Talking about memories. If anybody has any memories of that or anything else, let us know. Talking about memories. One of my favorite childhood poems was about the Pie Piper of Hamlin. Remember that? Famously led the rats out of Hamlin before leading all of the kids. Where did he lead the kids? I don't know. I know he led the rats out of the city, but he led the kids a little bit later. I'm not sure where they went. And apparently, we could use a Pied Piper in Ottawa and area these days. Rats, rats, rats. No matter where you look, there are rats, rats. Overtaking parts of the city, driven out into the open, apparently, by digging and other stuff concerning the light rail. I love, and of course, city councilors have been dragged into this. People complaining that there's rats everywhere. One guy says he trapped 40 one night in a live trap. My God, I hope we're not live trapping rats. I hope we're trying to kill them. Oh my God. But I love one statement. I'm not sure which city some of these city councilors I've never heard of before. And he says, quote, "It's not the city's responsibility to get rid of wildlife." So I guess as far as some members of city council are concerned, hey, rats are just wildlife, So which means I guess any day now, PETA is going to come along and say that rats should be an endangered species, and you will be sent to jail if you're caught killing one of them. And it's unbelievable. The world has gone crazy, folks. No question about it. Oh my God! There's only one good rat, and that's a dead rat. Okay.
I shouldn't tell you that I've got a live trap outside right now because we think we're dealing with a rat. We think that's what's been crawling around in the ceiling.
I saw that. Yes. I have to tell you, this is another little story. My father was, let's just say, slightly eccentric, and he bought the family's sort of homestead in Arthur, Ontario, right after the war. Okay, he served in both the U.S. and the Canadian armies. So right after the war, he buys this little old house in Arthur, Ontario. I mean, a real backwater Ontario. Okay, thinking he could make a living there, which he really could never do. But anyway, I moved in there with him for one summer. So one day, just like you, he hears this bang, this noise up above. Okay, he's down in his study and he can hear this noise up above. So he decides that he's going to shoot him. He's got a 22. So anyway, he goes up and he measures there and he figures out exactly where the bullet will come up. Okay, if he shoots up here, because this is where the noise ends, so he's going to shoot up there.
He really thought about this.
Oh yeah. Oh no. He went up and he pasted. I'm sure he never saw measuring tape in his life. But anyway, So anyway, sure enough, he hears the noise. Bam, bam. 2 shots up through the roof. He doesn't hear any more noise. 2 days later, his wife Lowell had just bought a brand new skirt a many pleated skirt. There were something like 37 holes through every pleat in her skirt. she was not one pleased lady. Okay.
I bet not. Oh, that's great.
Years later, I wanted this. This was a heritage home in Arthur, so I bought and sponsored a special heritage plaque, and so I went up there with Debbie and a number of my relatives, aunts and uncles and so forth. There was a big crowd of us there at this, and we put the plaque on, and we had a little ceremony, and we drank a little wine and so forth, and I told the story, and the present owners were there. And I could, as I'm telling the story about the shots through the pleats, I could see this woman sort of looking at me strangely. She said, that that skirt is still there. She said, I saw that skirt just a little while ago, still hanging in the same closet years later. Don't ask me why. But
I was just going to say, why?
I have no idea. But anyway, oh my goodness. I'll never forget that. I think it was 37 different holes through every single pleat in this dress. It's a crazy world. It's a crazy world, no question. On another topic. I don't know if anybody's commented on anything to this point, but
actually, I've got one interesting question, if I could. Mike wants to know: were you good friends with the recently deceased Angelo Mosca?
I wasn't friends with him, but I have a memory of Angelo Mosca. He was, when he was playing for Hamilton, he came to play for Ottawa later. At which point he was a great friend of all of Ottawa. But I'll never forget. This was the days when, you know, I was in the north stands. South side sucks. It was great fun. Just
South side
great
does
fun.
suck. You're right.
Yeah, South side sucks and everything. But there was a great big banner. It had to be 20 feet long. It appeared at every game against Hamilton, and the sign said, "Angelo Mosca eats bananas."
Why?
I don't know. It was just. It was some of you old timers will remember that, this great big sign, Angelo Mosca eats bananas. So,
I've been going to games since the 70s. I can't say I've ever heard that story. That's great.
Those were priceless days. I have a few stories about George Brancato, which I haven't got time to tell now. He was the coach, actually the last coach of the Rough Riders winning a Grey Cup. On another topic, my wife, Debbie, got her booster shot this morning. Didn't feel a thing. Now, I must tell you that I was expecting that maybe she might be a little bit cranky because I was going to get my booster shot at the same time. But our pharmacist, who's become a pretty good friend, said, you know what? Some people are getting a little bit of a reaction here, a little bit of a sore arm for a couple of days with the booster. So I would prefer, Lowell, if you waited a couple of days. I don't want two cranky people in the same house. So one cranky is enough, believe me. So when Debbie came back 2 or 3 hours ago, I said, well, have we got a cranky lady? Nope, she never felt a thing. She's off playing bridge again. So nope, no problem whatsoever. I'm just wondering if anybody else out there has got a booster, any crankiness, any sore arm. For some reason, apparently, some people are getting, I mean, nothing serious. They're just a little bit of a sore arm and maybe a little bit more tired than usual for a day. I'm going to be honest with you. One of our daughters got a little bit of that as well. But Debbie, absolutely nothing. So what? Any story with you? We have Barry. We're going to try Barry again. Yesterday, Barry screwed up the phones or something.
You guys blame Barry. Fantastic.
What's on your mind, Barry?
I say blame it all on me, Lowell.
Absolutely. Why not?
Well, you're talking about memories. I remember when JFK was assassinated, I was in, it was either grade 1 or grade 2 in a portable classroom outside the back of Arch Street Public School. And they shut down school for the day when that happened. And I remember coming out of that portable classroom and almost being in tears. And also what you were saying about, you know, communism and the threat of war, nuclear war and all that, and, you know, teaching kids to get underneath the desk, duck and cover. all that kind of stuff from the Cold War days. Well, that was one of the things that was on my mind when Kennedy was assassinated. As a 6-year-old, I was wondering, oh God, is there going to be a nuclear war? Or are we going to get blown up to bits or what? And I can even remember just behind the Canadian Tire on Heron Road, there used to be one of those big towers with the sirens on them for
That's right.
An alert. And they ended up
air raid
tearing all of
warning.
them down. They tore all of them down, and I'm surprised because you'd think if they'd had enough foresight to see global warming and climate emergencies coming along, that they would have left them up for in case there's a tornado or something.
Yeah, I actually, yeah, it's I on that day, as I say, 1963, I had the grim task. Not Campbell McDonald. I had the original part, but I read some of the new, and it was my job to announce the fact that John F. Kennedy was dead on CFRA. It was. I'm going to tell you, there were tears in my eyes, and I had a most difficulty, I think, announcing that I've ever had, and announcing that John F. Kennedy was dead. He was the great hope, the excitement, and
I think JFK, the way he stood up to Khrushchev and took care of the Cuban Missile Crisis and all that, Lowell, I think he was one of the more popular presidents the States has ever had. And it's unfortunate that back in those days that whoever it was involved, had him killed. But you were talking about other memories about the rioters and stuff. My father was a high school teacher, and his first job teaching was at Rideau High School along with Russ Jackson. And I got to meet Russ Jackson as a kid when he came over to our house one day. And, he was a big man he was originally a tight end, an offensive tight end there before they, converted him, or we went to being a quarterback. But, I got to meet him, and I always loved the Grey Cup parties that my parents, my dad's friends, everybody would have when the Riders were really good and they were in the Grey Cup.
Let me ask you, Barry. We have to move on here, but let me ask you: do you remember, or is there anyone out there remember, for 1 year, and I may have done it for 2 years, I hosted with Russ Jackson's wife what we call the Kitchen Quarterback Club, and this was to try and acquaint more women to the game. And Russ Jackson's wife, her name escapes me now, sorry, was great. She was wonderful. But I know that I hosted that with her 1 year, and may have done it the second. I'm not sure. I don't. You may have been too young to pay attention there. But I bet you that there are some. Go ahead.
You put the jinx on me, Lowell, because I'm just trying. As soon as you mentioned that, I'm trying to remember her name because
Lois.
I remember
Lois.
Yeah, that's it. Yep, exactly. Lois Jackson. Yeah, because the Jacksons used to have really good parties. And whenever my parents went to one of their parties, I guess the money was good as football player back then, because Russ Jackson, actually, they had these. My mom kept one of them, asked Lois for it, and kept one of them. It was a really huge, large bottle that was about maybe 2.5 feet high. And my mother ended up turning it into a lamp holder in our rec room. But she
Barry,
said
I got a lot of memories there, sir. I wish we had more time. Thank you for your calling, Barry. Anytime. Got to get a word in here for our good friends at Shields. I told you yesterday, once again, I'm extolling the virtues of Shields' website. It's been a long time since I've seen a website so easy to use and so effective. Now, mind you, whether it's the electronics, mattresses, furniture, appliances, but their main specialty is appliances, although they do sell a good deal of furniture as well, but appliances. But no matter what it is, if you want, for example, I mentioned yesterday, microwave, if you want to find out by wattage, which brands accept to use the most wattage, it's all of the information there. Which color you can choose by color, by size, by shape, by capacity, etc. It's all of the information there, and so easy to find. And don't forget, I guess one of the best things is you'll be very, very surprised at some of the savings that you're going to make. Savings up to $800, for example, on appliances. Shields, good folks, good deals, and good delivery dates. They have a huge warehouse absolutely filled. They know their business. They've had these appliances in stock for a long time, and they'll have it in your house within 2 or 3 days. Shields.ca. Check them out, folks. Check them out. John, any comments, any emails or texts coming
Actually, I
in?
think we have an explanation for the banana banner that you mentioned a few minutes ago. Murray says that was because he would hit you like a gorilla.
Oh, that was it. Okay. Mosca eats bananas.
Perfect sense. There you
Yeah,
go.
there was nothing racial because there was nothing racial. It was that's Mosca hits you like a gorilla. Yeah, he was a pretty frightening sight on the other side of the line.
Terry's wondering, did you ever broadcast from the Westgate studio, the CFRA Noon News?
No, Campbell McDonald did. I wrote that news for Campbell, and when I first came in 1960, Westgate Shopping Center was the first shopping center in Ottawa, shopping mall, and Campbell would go every day at noon, the noon news. I'll never forget that. He always left it to absolutely the last second, and I would be racing down the stairs to hand him another news story as he raced out and jumped in his car, and he did the noon newscast for more than a year, I believe. We have a Tom on the phone. Tom,
I believe it's Tom. It could be Carrie. It's coming from Bradenton, Florida.
This is Tom Toomey, the famous Tom Toomey. Good morning or afternoon.
Hi, Lowell. How are you doing?
I am doing okay, Tom.
Good. Just wanted to let you know about the booster. We got our booster on Saturday morning, and my arm was really not sore, just a little bit of feeling for about 2 or 3 hours, and that was it. Same thing with Carrie. She was a little bit more sore than I was, but then it went away.
Good show. Now listen, a real serious question here, Tom. What's the weather like in Sarasota, Florida today?
It is bloody cold out here right now.
Yeah,
it's
right.
About 70.
Poor fellow.
Actually, there are people walking around our park. There's this one elderly gentleman with earmuffs and gloves, and it's 70 degrees out, but it's actually sunny. It's beautiful.
You're playing golf?
Actually, I'm playing bowling and horseshoes. I haven't been out golfing yet.
Lawn bowling?
We're renovating our place over here.
Wonderful. Good to hear from you.
No. 10-pin bowling.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Tom Toomey is a neighbor of mine, been friends for many years. Tom, you go back to the early days of CFRA. You used to...
I do, back to the 60s.
That took many photographs. Do you remember those days when Mosca eats bananas? Do you remember those days?
You know what? I actually do remember something like that. I was a photographer. I was a photographer for the Rough Riders for a little while, and I do remember something like that.
It was great fun. Thank you, Tom Toomey. Thank you. I have another topic here. I was a little bit surprised yesterday at the number of people who firmly believed and said so very vociferously that they felt that some sort of graft had been involved in the awarding of contracts for light rail. I have a few more specific questions. We're running a little short of time here. If you believe that something illegal happened here, as many of you apparently do, in what form do you believe this happened? For example, do you think that somebody at City Hall or someplace took bribes, actually took money? Do you think that money passed hands here? Or do you think it involved benefits of other kinds? Free trips, perhaps, a better job, something of that nature? Or do you think it was friends just rewarding friends or relatives, nepotism? And this question that I have to ask: do you believe that any member of City Council was involved in any way in action that they knew was illegal? And finally, and I've got to ask this, and I'm just asking the question, do you believe the mayor was involved in any way in any kind of illegal action? So I'm asking some specific questions, and I want to point out that I do not, I'm not stating that I believe any of this, but obviously many of you feel that something untoward happened here, and I'm just trying to pin it down. In what form? Do you think it was outright bribery? Do you think it was just friends? Or do you think it was more likely just straight incompetence? By the way, any more, John, any more emails or anything?
Yeah, comments are starting to come in on that. By the way, post yours on whatever social media platform you're watching or text us right now at 613-413-2217. Julie says, I think someone at City Hall didn't take money. I think they got a house reno or a trip or a nice car. Also on Twitch, this comment, I don't think it was money. I'd think benefits, gifts, etc. And Terry, of course, always the funny guy, says free train rides. And Donald says, start at Justin and work down. Okay, of course, there's another comment, Mandy, of course, favors, gifts, etc., she says.
Okay, that's interesting. I'm just trying. And the other question is, and I'd like some reaction on this. Do you think that any member of city council was involved in any way in action that they knew was illegal? And finally, do you believe the mayor was involved in any way in any kind of illegal action? Those, I think, are important questions in this regard. And while we're waiting for some more comment on that, I just want to report to you, as you know, there's more and more pressure being applied to cancel pipelines. We've got David Suzuki out there now threatening to blow up pipelines or saying that pipelines are going to be blown up, etc. It just gets worse and worse every single day. I just want to point out that never, when we're talking about pipelines and oil and gas they never tell us what they think we should be using to heat our homes or to fire up our manufacturing. If you think it's wind and solar, let me just point out that at 1 o'clock this afternoon, Ontario was burning 16,117 megawatts of power. Wind was producing 617 megawatts. Solar was producing 251 megawatts. For a total wind and solar at 1 o'clock today, on a fairly sunny day and a very breezy day, wind and solar combined 5.5% of all of our needs. So if we're going to blow up pipelines, David Suzuki, if we are going to cancel all oil and gas exploration and production, what are we going to replace the power with? Wind and solar? John, you have some text still coming in?
It's interesting you brought up David Suzuki because they were talking about that in some of the forums, Facebook and Twitch, etc. while we were on the air. I didn't know what they were talking about, but there it is. Let me see. On Twitch, I don't think the mayor was involved in illegal activities. I just don't think Watson is that type of politician. And says, LRT, do not think council or mayor was involved, but city bureaucrats? Yes. Big contracts as you ran into years ago, says Eric. Donald says, yes, the mayor and his buddies. Mandy suggests that they all seem to turn a blind eye. And Eric says, maybe not outright money, but awarding contracts, etc. to family and friends. Richard is on Facebook, and he says the whole process was not transparent. Winner had the highest bid. Good usage of taxpayers' hard-earned money. Shaking my head in disbelief.
Yeah, I know, but so the question is, do you think that something illegal happened here? That's the question here. We all shake our heads at what happened, but what do you think prompted this? Did money exchange? Was it gifts? What? That's the question here. John, go ahead, please.
Comment from YouTube. Danny, thank you for watching us on YouTube. Something smells with the LRT controller. Just ask yourself why SNC got the Line 1 contract with a subpar bid. Terry, how would Suzuki know anything? He is a fruit fly scientist. Mandy says, both. Just trying to make sure as much money as they can. And there you go. Just a cross-section of some of the comments coming in for you today, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you all, folks. I hope I'm going to get nobody commented on other than Tom Toomey about the booster shots. Tomorrow I'm going to ask you, I think one of the questions I'll ask is, are you going to get the booster? Thank you all. We'll be back tomorrow.
The Lowell Green Show is seen and heard live around the world at 2 p.m. Eastern. Connect with us online at blasttheradio.com/Lowell Green. Can't join us live? Download the Lowell Green podcast. Available on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. ask your smart speaker to play the Lowell Green Podcast. This is a production of BlastTheRadio.com.